So, your sister, obviously, you two spent 87 years together.
Right.
And you've shared a lot of memories with us on video. They're so classic. They're so wonderful. And even though her major frustration in life wasn't with her husband or children, it was you kicking her butt in cards. She, to this day, Mom's blood pressure would go from 120 to 180 because you refused to let her beat you in cards. And it wasn't a little bit. She would actually take off to the side and say, "That lucky so-and-so." You kicked her butt about 80 to 20 or 70 to 30, at least 60 to 40 all your life. And so, other than maybe some indiscretions in your youth, would you please explain to us why you have been so fortunate? Okay. Other than those lies, would you please explain to us why you are guilty in beating Mother 60 to 40 all those years, gin rummy, it didn't matter what game. In fact, you know what her other frustration was? When she went gambling with you, you always won.
I told her to quit playing. Okay, now that's him. She was always, your dad told her how to do it. And I said, he's wrong. Well,
okay.
She never thought John was wrong about anything.
Ah.
But he was. And I
But how did you all gamble her? I didn't mean to cut you off, but even when you went to the Indian reservation, Mom would say, "That damn Celia wins everything."
Well, she wasn't paying attention to what she was doing. She was paying attention to me.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good point.
So how?
Did you beat her at golf too?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally have contributed great amounts of money
had my
retirement
I
fund.
had my time.
But overall, you were a better golfer than Mom. I remember. Yeah. But how about cards? I mean, did you have a strategy with Jim Rummy, or how did that work?
She was going to go for the runs and the open ends. Everything was open ends. So I took advantage of it.
Did you ever let her win? Did you ever just let her win? Did you ever just let her
let anyone
No,
win?
because we were playing for money. And she would never let me win if it was money.
Now, it actually got to the point where she would slam the cards down and say, give us an idea.
You know who she took after?
criminal?
Grandma.
Oh, Grandma Knopf didn't like it either.
Yeah, well, Grandma, I fixed her when she came over to live with me, you know.
Yeah.
30 cents.
Well, after we'd have breakfast, she'd say, "Let's play a couple of hands of cards." Okay. So we'd sit down. If I beat her, oh man, she would slam those cards, throw them down on the table, throw them all over the floor and everything else. And I picked them up for a couple of months, you know, and finally one day I thought, I have had enough of this. And I said, she wanted to play cards, and I said, I'm telling you before we get started, if you throw those cards on the floor, you are going to pick them up or they're going to stay there until you do. I'm not going to throw them on the floor. And I said, well, I know you. Away we went, you know, and I beat her, and oh my gosh, the cards flew, they went all over the table. And I just got up and walked out, and I walked in the front room, and I stayed in the front room. Pretty soon I went back, just went around the corner of the stove. Look, here she's down on all fours, picking them all up.
She was only 96.
Yeah. You
98.
Yeah, you
Oh my God.
So you're admitting to being an abusive daughter, but other than that,
That wasn't the worst part.
oh, what was the worst part?
After, I don't know, it must have been a week or so later. I don't know what I was doing at the stove, and the tea kettle was boiling, you know. She came there and she stood right in front of that spout and lifted the cover. Well, when she lifted the cover and put it back down, of course, it squirted out all that boiling water all over the top of her foot. And I thought, oh I got to take her to the hospital. And so I called Marion and I told her what happened. And she said, well, I think we better go with you. And I said, yeah, maybe you better. I said, you might have to bring her home. I'm going to be in jail. And I'm sure as hell know that they're going to say this woman was abused, you know. Well, we went in there, and of course, I went in with her, and your dad and mother stayed out in the lobby. And I went in and I said, well, the doctor wanted to know what happened. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So I told him.
He said, go ahead and explain, foot abuser.
He said,
Go ahead and try to talk your way out of this.
He said, well, could I talk to your mother by myself? And I said, sure. And I know what
This was her chance.
He
Go ahead and talk to her.
I thought, oh boy, you know, if she's ever going to get me for making her pick up those cards.
It's all about cards.
But she told him, she said, no, that's exactly what happened. And he said, well, I can see how that would happen, but I have to be sure. Well, then he brought your mother and dad in, you know, and told them about it. I thought, oh my God, I could have been in jail yet.
How long did you and Grandma live together? When she came over
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Yeah.
She sure had sharp elbows, didn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Boy, she
Yeah.
could give them to you.
And so you have a historical, we have a historical conundrum that only you can clear up. On a more serious note, when I was doing the obituary for Marion, have another drink, Marion Elizabeth Kylett Clark, I'm looking at my mother's birth certificate, and her mother's name is Eleonora. Could she not spell?
Checked it out.
Is she Elmira or Eleanor?
Elmira. A-L-M-I-R-A.
Well, how did the authorities get Eleonora?
Well, it was just somebody not doing their job.
Somebody just hearing in.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't you have to sign a birth certificate? So she just maybe didn't pay attention and.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was shocked when I saw it.
We pretty much, we think that Elmira was not actually your mother. We think there's a mysterious Eleonora.
I'm sorry.
And the truth is.
It was Eleanor.
B-R.
Okay. Right.
But not
Now, in your memory, did this woman, your mother, Elmira Kylett Nulf, did she not work as a butcher or in the meat department in Kalamazoo? To what age? What? Let's make sure we have this on tape. Was she not in her 70s or at least mid 70s? About? Do you have?
72.
She worked till she was 70.
Okay.
She could have gotten out at 62, but she didn't want to.
And did she have an opinion on the nature and importance of pigeons?
Yeah. But I am not going to tell you what she said.
Well, I promise I won't publish it. What do you think?
Remember what she did.
Are they called squab in fine restaurants?
Oh, my.
Yes.
Go ahead. I promise I won't publish
Not at
it.
Grandma's house, they weren't called.
I tell you, she hated those pigeons. She did everything. She did everything, including against the law.
Well, why ever? They're such wonderful birds. I mean, why did she?
They roosted right over her front door and deposited on her front steps.
They were going down her chimney.
And doing what?
Well, you
Spying on her or what? What were they
They were
doing?
doing everything. And they were wrecking that metal shield that they put around the chimney, you know.
I think
Oh, God. I don't know how they did it, but she had some roofer go up there and put tainted bird seed and painted bird seed, everything up there.
no, we're trying to say the truth.
She even threatened to get a gun and shoot him.
Yeah,
And she was how old at this point? About
Oh
112?
my God, she was 80 something. times.
She was in her late days, and she had.
The birds would get up there, and I remember going over there, and the birds were falling off the roof.
Yeah.
And then she was right down below to catch them, and then she wrung their necks.
Well, did they fall off the roof because they were eating those boiled dinners or tainted seed?
The tainted seed.
Oh, okay.
And then she put them in the garbage can, and then that little kid next door saw her and called the police. Remember that?
No.
Because she was wringing their necks and putting them in the garbage can, and the kids went and said to their parents, "Look what she's doing to those birds." And they called the police, and then they came to see her.
Now, was she not a rose expert, though? Or if not a rose expert, she had
She had beautiful roses.
beautiful roses for years. And would you please explain to the rest of the family what a boiled dinner is? Because the kids don't know what this is. They've never heard of it. What is a boiled dinner?
A boiled dinner for her was ham. You know, a ham bone with a lot of ham left on it. And you put potatoes and onions and carrots. And potatoes. Once in a while she put cabbage.
And that was a Sunday invite,
Well,
right?
Most
Not
people
whatever.
knew. Most people knew when
Until
she
it was
put
gone
cabbage.
anyway.
Okay.
Most people could tell when the cabbage was in there.
Oh yeah.
And weren't you one of the few people, I recall going to your house over to Grandma Knopf's house in Kalamazoo, and Floyd Knopf had the first of what was a remote controlled television. Do you remember that? He flicked this little thing and the channels changed, and all of us were in amazement that the channel on a television could change. He had one of the first,
Get up and actually do it.
right, remote controlled TVs, color TVs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if he was gonna see Ponderosa, boy oh boy. He didn't want anybody bothering him. You know.